So good evening, everyone. I promise I will be short because I heard already people talking in the back, and I think you want to have a drink and a bit of chatting among yourselves. But a couple of words from my side. First of all, thank you, Vienna, for hosting us in this beautiful building. It's, I think, a synonym for what Vienna and Austria has to offer: culture, beauty, architecture, and I think a very good atmosphere for discussions. But also, congratulations to ESPI. Congratulations to Ludwig and his team for organizing this event here, but also for the quasi-international organization status which you obtained and which took 2 years to get it. And I think this was a major achievement because it really shows that space is important for the government of Austria, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and therefore special status has been recognized and given in order to do the brainstorming, the think tank work that you're doing so well. And thank you to all the teams of ESPI for doing a wonderful job. I'm actually just coming, I've landed just an hour ago from Brussels. We had a huge conference in Brussels, and it was organized or co-organized with ESPI by the Danish presidency of the European Union, together with ESA, European Space Agency, with ESPI, and with the Rasmussen Global Organization and the European Commission. But ESPI was very instrumental to help organizing it, and you have done a very good job, and thank you really for doing that. So what was discussed at this conference, and this brings me a bit to the main theme of the ESPI Autumn Conference here: Europe as a space power. Is Europe a space power, or is Europe not a space power? And I think this is a question that we ask ourselves every day. I'm preparing, as you know, a ministerial conference in less than 1 month. In less than 1 month, we have concluded, and we will know what the ESA ministerial conference will bring. But we are discussing this a lot with our decision makers, our ministers, our heads of government in some countries. What does it mean for Europe to engage in space? And I have 2 arguments plus half an argument which I really use when I talk about why should a minister invest money on a voluntary basis. I remind you that the ESA optional programs are voluntary, that means optional, and the country can put a lot of money or no money depending on their priorities and the attractiveness of the program. So when I talk to the ministers, I use 2 lines of argumentation. Number 1, and this was mentioned by Karin already, space is a fast economically growing sector. We have an economic growth of roughly 10% per year. We have a space economy, as we have just heard, of about 600 billion euros worldwide. It grows to 900 billion in the early 30s, 1.8 trillion in the mid-30s or late 30s. There are different figures giving different estimates, but it doesn't matter. It's a very fast-growing economy, roughly 9–10% per year growth. There are not many sectors in the economy that grow at that speed. There may be quantum technologies, there may be artificial intelligence, there may be some IT domains, but all the others, from transport to energy to many other domains, they are not growing that fast. Some of them are even decreasing, or economies are not growing extremely fast these days. And having a sector that grows with that speed of 10% per year, I think is remarkable and already in itself worth an investment, because there's also a return of the investments that we make. If you put €1 into our programs, on average, you get 5 to 7 euros back through indirect and direct measures to the economy: taxes, new businesses, new opportunities, new services that are being offered. So there's the economic argument. And with the economic argument goes the use of space for daily life. When you wake up in the morning, you look at your weather forecast, 80% of your weather forecast data, the observations, are coming from satellites. Then you take your breakfast. You take your muesli or whatever you eat provided by the farmer. And again, the farmer uses space data, that means Earth observation, navigation, communications, in order to look at his fields, to select the harvest, to monitor harvest, sorry, and then transport the harvested goods somewhere to another place. Then you drive maybe to work. If you drive to work, you probably know your way, but if you drive somewhere else, you need a navigation system. Again, this is GPS or Galileo, which is providing you this service. And then you go to a restaurant, pay with your credit card for some meals or some coffee you have. Again, you need satellite communication, secure communication that is exchanging between your ATM machine or your payment machine and the bank to make sure that you have the money, and so on. So as you go through the day, you're using space technology all along, and many times without knowing and without seeing. And this is going with the economic argument. The second argument I'm using when I discuss with decision makers and ministers in the countries is completely new, or not completely new, but has been reinforced dramatically, and this is space as a strategic asset for security and defense of our people and our countries. I don't need to explain the geopolitical context. I don't need to explain what happens in the east of Austria and the west of Austria, the geopolitical instability in some of the places, which means that Europe has to be independent, stronger, more autonomous, and build up its strength. And this is one of the priorities of my package of the ministerial conference, to make sure that Europe is becoming more independent, more autonomous, stronger in space, in order to be, as the headline behind me says, a space power not only in a few domains, but at large, with technology that we develop that is critical and where we need to develop independent, autonomous technologies, but also with programs. We already have some of the world's leading programs. You know very well, Copernicus, Galileo, IRIS² to come. We have some of the best space science missions from Euclid to Gaia to JUICE and many others. They are outstanding and world standard, but still we have to catch up and we have to increase. And if I say to catch up, because I'm lobbying for investment with our decision makers, I'm putting Europe in context globally. I mentioned that the space economy is growing fast. Yes, that's true. But the European share of the global space economy, the public investments, is about 10%. The global investments in space is 122 billion last year, 61% United States, 15% China, 10% Europe. 10% Europe is low compared to the United States, compared to China, especially if I add up all the GDP numbers of our member states of ESA. We are reaching 24%. So the ESA member states' economy is occupying about 24% of the global economy. So if the global economy is 24%, why is the space investment only 10%? And this is a question I'm asking. So that's why I'm very much trying to convince all the decision makers that we have to increase our investment, because we can do it. We have an economic strength, because it is needed from breakfast to lunchtime, and it is needed for economic growth, and it is needed for security and defense. And therefore, we need really to catch up, because if we don't, we are losing some of our best people, some of our best companies and industries, because they go where projects are and where programs are. And that's what we have to do, and that's what we're building up. And this is exactly what we're doing with the ESA Ministerial Conference, happening, as I said, in 4 weeks. It's a very important, critical milestone. It's a lot of effort that has been put into, but it is a very decisive moment, because there's no other funding step for the next 3 years to come. The next 3 years means the MFF of the European Union, which starts in 28. The next ESA conference also in 28. So this is the moment we need to support and we need to lobby. And this is what I'm saying and keep saying to all my decision makers, ministers, and the ones that are supporting space in Europe. Thank you so much. Please help us in the last stretch going towards the ministerial. It's a very decisive moment. I know that you're all working along the same lines. I really appreciate that. Big thank you from my side. And we look forward to have a bit of small talk around among us, and really appreciate being here. Thank you so much.